Happy Tuesday, and thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making it your first listen of the day. All right, Arizona is going to have a lot of newcomers that are going to make a real impact here. Let's get started here. We're going to break it down on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
For keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, we have got a lot to get to this show, but we are going to talk almost exclusively about the newcomers that you all need to know about, because there is a lot of newcomers or some guys that haven't played a ton, but you should get to know them. Well, let's start on the offensive side of the ball. You know what? Why don't we go with the offensive line first? Because there's one new piece right here. Let's talk about Raymond Pulido. Now, a lot of people might forget that Raymond Pulido, offensive lineman, 4-star kid, was committed to Alabama for the longest time. At Alabama, they play good football and they recruit good players. So that is certainly something to keep in mind when you're thinking about Pulido. But with Pulido, he is just a massive individual. There's a reason. I'll sound dumb here repeating this, but there's a reason that Alabama recruited him. It's because he looks totally different. Arizona moved Big Jonah Sabanea outside to the tackle position, and a big reason why is because I think they felt comfortable with Jonah at guard, but I think they knew that he could play tackle, and they looked at Raymond Pulido and said that it'll be a little bit easier for a freshman to play inside a guard, and that is exactly what Pulido is going to be doing. I expect him to start every game of his U of A career, and I think that there's an excellent chance that he'll play in the NFL. Again, 6'7", 320, ex-Alabama commit. Just awesome recruiting get by Jedd Fisch. But again, Jedd Fisch has shown that he certainly gets the recruiting game and he gets the eval game. So there's that. Now, at the wide receiver spot, you lose Dorian Singer, who was not Arizona's best receiver, but was their leading receiver this past year. So what do? You had a bunch of different options right there, and some of these guys are going to play. Whether that's Kevin Green, I believe Kevin Green will play. I believe that Malachi Riley will play as well. Heck, Carlos Wilson will probably redshirt, but either way, I think he's going to be a pretty solid fit right there. But the one dude who just kind of really sticks out is Montana Lemonious Craig, ex-4-star wide receiver out of high school from Inglewood, went to Colorado, tore it up in the spring game, and then left. He's big time. He physically looks the part in a way that, he's about 6'3", probably 205, 210 pounds. And he just looks like an NFL player. Now, again, I don't know exactly what the speed is, but there's a lot to like about him. He's going to be that third receiver. So you're going to have T-Mac, you're going to have Jacob Cowan, you're going to have Montana Lemonious Craig. And I expect him to put up big numbers. I really do. Big is relative, obviously, but I think he can catch for 700-800 yards, something like that. He is he's going to be a monster here. And Jacob Cowan moves on after this year, and it would not surprise me at all if Montana hops in there and becomes that other receiver opposite T-Mac, with Kevin Green sliding into the slot there, whatever the case may be. But he is, I expect big things, and it would not surprise me at all if he caught for more yards than Dorian Singer. Dorian Singer obviously off to USC. But I believe that there's an excellent chance that Montana Lemonious Craig is going to easily replace that production right there. And I know what I'm saying right there. I totally get it. I'm a big Dorian Singer fan, but Montana Lemonious Craig is very good. All right, now, some of these players are not necessarily newcomers, but they're going to be new to the structure this year. Another one is Kean Burnett. Now, remember, Kean Burnett was one of Jedd Fisch's first big-time gets, ex-4-star tight end out of Servite. Huge kid, But last year, it just took him a while to learn everything. He needed to learn everything. And not only did he need to learn everything, it just, like I said, it just took him a little bit of time. Tight end's a different position for some than others. And he certainly needed a little bit of time. But now he's probably put on 20 pounds of really, really good muscle. I mean, you watch him and he looks physically, he looks different than he looked last year. And he looks far more confident. He is I think you're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets, and I think you're going to probably see him get 20 to 30 catches this year. And then by next year, with Tanner McLaughlin moves on, I think you're probably going to see 60 catches. I think you could see 50 to 60 catches, 700 yards, 7-8 touchdowns. Again, just a monster out there. I mean, he is a big dude. And not only is he a big guy, he can move really well. It's easy to see why he was so highly rated coming out of high school. It's also easy to see that he's the son of an NFL player. There's a lot to like about him. Okay, now, another player there's a lot to like about who played sparingly last year is Rayshon Speedy Luke. Fam, as we call him. All right, so obviously he was hurt last year, broke his ankle, so that obviously took him back here a little bit. He's healthy, he's good to go now, and I think he's going to be. Pac-12 defenses will have a hard time with him as long as he doesn't fumble the ball. I think you're probably going to see him get 9-10 touches per game. That's what I think you got to have him do, because he's got a gear that very few on this team, and let alone this team in college football, have. I mean, you saw that he's one of the fastest players in the state of California. And it's football speed too. He can make people miss. He's got angles. Never going to be a big dude, always going to be kind of probably about 5'8", 175, something like that. But there's a lot to like. I need him returning kicks. I'm going to keep saying this. I'm going to keep saying this until I'm blue in the face. I need him returning kicks because he can do that. Then a couple other guys who didn't play last year, but are going to be expected if called upon. Noah Fafita. Noah is obviously the backup quarterback. And I've been saying this from day one, that if you're Jaden DeLore, you want to stay healthy, because if you miss extended time, Noah Fafita could come in there and take that spot. Noah Fafita I get it, he's about 5'7", 5'8", max, but he can also really throw the ball. He's got a great feel for the pocket, the way that he can move around. He is, he's a leader of men. Now, again, he's not a tall guy. That's always going to be something that sticks out, because he looks really short out there. But he can make all the throws. He can move around. He can buy himself time as well. There's just, like I said, there's just a lot to like about him. And I think the coaching staff and players on the team feel very comfortable with what he can do, because they've seen it. I mean, he's done it at the highest level of high school football, and he's come in here and he's shown a grasp of the offensive system that I don't think a lot of people thought that they would see. All right, now we're going to talk about some of the new players on the defense, because there are a ton of new players on the defense. But first, let's talk about Nutrafol. All right, Nutrafol. Here's the deal. Go to use code word LOCKEDONCollege for $10 off your first month subscription of Nutrafol. Shop now at Nutrafol.com/men. Again, this is a little bit like LinkedIn. A lot of people use Nutrafol, and the reason that they're using it is because it works. Now, you're going to say to yourself, Mike, where could I find this? Again, shop at Nutrafol.com/men. There is use code word LOCKEDON for 10% off your first month subscription. Nutrafol, check it out. All right, we'll be right back with you. We are going to talk about the U of A defense next. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats, and making this your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, a lot of new players on defense that we need to get to. So why don't we start on the down line, and then we'll work our way up. First guy that we need to talk a ton about is Taylor Upshaw. Another Colorado transfer, ex-player from Michigan, 4.5 career sacks. Arizona desperately needs him to be the Hunter Eccles that came in, didn't have a ton of college success, but he just basically needed to be in a different program and utilize him. And I think that's what you're hoping for if you're Arizona, because again, he is he certainly has out of all the pass rushers, he's certainly the guy that looks the part the most. He's pretty big. He's not the like I said, it's not like he's probably an NFL prospect because he's still in college. But if I can get 5 to 6 sacks out of him, then you call that a day and you move on, because that is more than what you need out of that position, right? I mean, not more, but that it would be ideal from him. Taylor Upshaw right there. Now, opposite him, a guy that didn't play a ton last year and hasn't done a ton in camp, but you're going to keep talking about is Deuce Davis. Deuce Davis showed last year a little bit of a burst off the edge, a little bit of a quick twitch that you didn't see really anybody on the U of A team have. If Arizona needs him to step up. And not only does Arizona need him to step up, Arizona needs him to be consistent. But I also, if he's injured or he's going to miss time, I also don't want to do the thing, though, where you play him, but you're not going to get much. I think Arizona's deep enough at this point that you could redshirt him if he's going to be injured. And I don't know that would be the worst thing in the world, because he's still pretty light. Another year with T.O. in the weight room, I think that you could see a lot of improvement there. All right, now, at that D tackle spot then, talking about Tyler Manoa. Manoa, ex-4-star kid, moved around a bunch, was D-line, then he was O-line his previous stop. He's going to be straight defensive line here, and I think the Arizona coaching staff feels that he's probably their best defensive tackle, might be their best defensive lineman. Really good player. He's been very solid since he got to the U of A. Now, with a lot like with every other player, you got to show it on the football field, because a lot of players look solid in practice, and then it just doesn't ever translate. He's the dude. You need him to be a disruptor, and if he's not getting a ton of sacks, that's okay. You need him to be able to at least take up blockers and make things easier for the linebackers right there. Now, another guy also to keep an eye on, Tia Savea, ex-UCLA player, another 4-star kid. You're hoping that just a change of scenery will work very well for him. I think that it probably will work well for him. He's been good in practice. Big dude. There's definitely a spot for him as well. And then after that, you got Big Bill Norton, our guy, Georgia transfer, all 350 pounds of him. I don't know that Bill Norton will ever get a sack, but I don't need Bill Norton to get a sack. I need Bill Norton to take up blockers. And if Bill Norton can take up blockers, that is pretty much all that I need from him right there. And I think he can do that. I mean, he's a big dude. They call him Big Bill Norton for a reason. Then you got Tai Uiagalelei. Got some run last year. He's going to be right in the mix. This was another awesome scouting job by the U of A football staff, being able to get him, again, a really, really good player. And I think he's going to fit in very, very well at the U of A. Maybe by the time he's a junior, he's a player that doesn't come off the field, but there's a lot to like. The D-line, like I said, got a lot of question marks, but you at least have big bodies now. Across the board, you're not going to be throwing out undersized players that have no business being out there. You got big dudes right there that are going to be able to play. And I think that's something, if you're a U of A football coaching staff, you're excited about that possibility right there, because how many times have we seen it where where a team or whatever the case may be is just able to kind of just beat up Arizona because of how small they are? That's not going to be the case this year, so at least they're big up front. Then at that linebacker spot, you got a couple new dudes to keep an eye on. Now, Justin Flowe comes in with all of the hype. Obviously, Justin Flowe, Greg Biggins said, was about as good a linebacker prospect as he's ever scouted. You watch him, and you can tell that physically, he's obviously a monster. He works out really hard. You watch how you look how intense he is. You can tell that he wants to be good at football. The big drawback for him is that he's not very good in pass coverage. I said this yesterday, but a big thing with And it's too bad, but a big thing in this day and age of college football is you got to be good in pass coverage. So I can see him. Justin Flowe is going to play. Make no mistake, he's going to play. But I don't know that he's going to be the all-conference game changer that I think a lot of people were hoping he was going to be based on his or based on his high school accolades. I don't know. I don't think that's ever going to be the case. But again, I think he's going to be an impactful player. And not only do I think he's going to be an impactful player, I think he's going to be somebody that will have some big plays throughout the season. Then you got Daniel Haimuli. I think Daniel Haimuli is probably going to be your starting linebacker right there. He is a Washington transfer, obviously. He is kind of your quintessential jack of all trades, kind of good in the running game, kind of good in the passing game, probably not great at anything. But another player that I think you're hoping a change of venue will do wonders for him next to Jacob Manu, who's going to be taking up a lot of the attention, obviously, as that tackler. But Haimuli's been really, really good in camp, and I know that the coaching staff is excited to see what he can do. Now, the secondary, you got some guys returning, some guys not, but almost all of these players, though, are going to be getting their first real significant run. That first one is Ephesians Prysock. Ephesians Prysock, if you were to tell me, is the best NFL prospect on the defensive side of the football, I would probably agree with you because he is. He's what NFL players are supposed to look like. NFL corners. He's about 6'2", can move really, really well. You see why he was a 4-star kid. That was an excellent get by Jed Fish, getting him to decommit. I actually think that they'll be better at that spot, and that's with all due respect to Christian Roland Wallace. But I think Roland Wallace was a little bit limited, whereas Ephesians Prysock doesn't have those limitations, and I think he has a much higher upside. Takario Davis, certainly a little bit more of a question mark, but he's looked good so far in camp. Again, I thought when I watched him in the spring, I thought that he was probably going to have to move to safety because he just didn't look quick twitchy enough. But so far, so good. He's looked much better, and he's been running with the ones right there. And I think your hope is, if you're Jed Fish, that even if you get beat, if you got the size right there to be able to make up for it to a certain degree, you're hoping that can work out. And honestly, I don't know why it couldn't work out because you're going to have some guys on the back end that are going to be able to make a difference there. We're going to talk about them on the other side. Keep it locked on Wildcats. Thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, now we're going to talk about the safeties because you got some interesting players here. First one is Genesis Smith. Like we talked about, Genesis Smith probably should have been a 4-star safety. Kid out of Chandler. He has been a monster in camp, and you can tell that Dwayne Aquina has taken a real liking to him. And we will get to Dwayne Aquina as one of the newcomers as well. But Genesis Smith, though, he's another one of those players. Once he does hit the starting lineup, he's not coming out. Football looks like it comes pretty natural to him. He loves to hit. He's physically ready to rock and roll right now, which is something that you don't always see from safeties. Now, again, there's going to be some learning curve, obviously, but they've done a pretty good job there at the U of A of getting these guys to up to speed pretty quickly, and I think the Genesis is going to be one of those dudes right there. I'm not sure, again, that he starts, but if he doesn't start, he's going to be in there, and I think by the end of the season, he will be starting, and like I said, when he starts, he ain't coming out of the lineup. That's how good he is. Now, next to him, even though he didn't play it, he played some last year, but not a ton. I'd love to see Isaiah Taylor be that other safety. I believe that he and Genesis Smith are the two best safeties on the roster. And he's always kind of around the ball. He's had a knack for the ball. I would love to see him be that guy right there. And I think that he would excel in that role. I really do. Then, as far as returning kicks, I'm going to keep saying this till I'm blue in the face. I need Speedy Luke to return kicks. I don't care if he's small. Small players return kicks. Look at DeAnthony Thomas. That's why you try to get them the ball in as many ways as possible. I need that out of Speedy Luke right there. And I think that there's every reason to believe that he would deliver. You just can't fumble. All right. Now, as far as a newcomer goes too as well, Dwayne Aquina. I think Dwayne Aquina, even though he's not the DC, is probably the most important coach on that defensive side of the ball. You watch this defense; it looks far more structured. Players are swarming to the ball in a way that we haven't seen the first 2 years. And honestly, I think he's going to be somebody that Johnny Nansen can lean on. I know that Chuck Cecil is the safeties coach, but I think Chuck's kind of Chuck is the coach, but he's kind of a coach in name only. Dwayne Aquina, I think, is going to be far more impactful back there. So that is a big get. And I think Dwayne Aquina is going to be a big reason why Arizona football takes that next step defensively, like we talked about. Just need him to be around 7 or 8. Just can't have you be 12th. And I think Arizona is going to win a lot of games. All right, now, next show, we're going to talk about the NFL prospects on this team, which is enticing because it's gone a long time where Arizona hasn't had any NFL prospects on the team, anybody drafted. That's about to change as there's a number of players on this roster who are locks to play in the NFL, and there's a number of them that have first-round potential. And again, that's just something that we don't generally see here around the U of A, and that's something that I think is exciting to see. So we're going to talk about that. Then on Thursday, we're going to talk some U of A basketball, the Jerusalem trip, and all of that. But as always, really appreciate you guys making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I will be back with you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we will talk with you tomorrow.